Aku FIFA.
Hello, ketemu lagi bareng gue Deko, komparasi laptop lagi.
There. Coming up, it's a big week for Apple with the September product launch tomorrow, including, if you needed this, a thinner iPhone. Details next. This is Open Interest.
At what point do you say, we made a mistake and we're getting out? How long do you give it before you say, this isn't working?
That's one of the most critical differentiators between great investors and just mediocre investors. Because on one hand, you have to have confidence and conviction in all the work you've done, the decision you've made, that if you have a little stumble here and there, if you immediately are selling out, you're never really going to fully realize that the depth of potential long-term success. And yet on the other hand, if you're stubborn and you refuse to admit I'm wrong, you continue to think the market's wrong and I'm always right, then you'll get caught in some very, very difficult positions over time. So that ability to have a fresh perspective, take in the new information, even when things aren't going the way that you'd expect or to hope, and to really understand from this price point today, is this still going to be one of the most compelling investments or not?
I'm David Weston. Join me each week on Wall Street Week for stories of capitalism from business, markets, economics, tech, and climate. We go on the road for a look at what lies behind the headlines of today and what will likely be the headlines tomorrow.
We need more transparency.
Oil and gas is still important.
They said every citizen should be investing in the market.
Accelerate progress in all fields of science.
Watch Wall Street Week right here on Bloomberg. More than what you need to know, it's what you need to think about.
Bringing you the latest in tech and AI news whenever and wherever it happens. I'm Tom McKenzie in Paris, and this is Bloomberg.
From the world of politics to the world of business, Joe Matthew and Kaylee Lines deliver news, insight, and analysis live 2 times a day, every trading day. Balance of Power at 1 and 5 Eastern, only on Bloomberg.
Asia is at the forefront of some of the world's biggest stories. I'm Chevrian in Tokyo.
And I'm Heidi Stroud-Watts here in Sydney, where the trading day begins. We're here in the center of all the action to get you set up with the numbers, news, and knowledge you need for the day ahead.
The demand is indeed recovering. We've been waiting for this moment.
The opportunity of a century.
Join us on Bloomberg The Asia Trade. Weekdays only on Bloomberg TV. Context changes everything.
Let's get you some of the top calls, some of the analyst action in focus this morning. Starting off with Chewy, they're getting a raise to a buy at Mizuho. They expect a strong earnings report and a positive outlook when they report on Wednesday. Shares up only about 0.2%. Next up, TD Cowen upgrading Canada Goose to a buy. The analysts there see new products driving sales growth at the coat maker. Those shares are up 4.5%. I'm not sure how much innovation you can have with just puffy coats. Anyway, finally, Morgan Stanley and Barclays raising their price targets on Oracle. The software company has earnings that will be reporting tomorrow, so everyone giving them an upgrade. Shares up 2%, Matt.
All right, so a lot of upgrades there for Oracle, and interesting story and stock to watch. But I want to get back to the big spectrum sale we've been talking about. SpaceX struck a $17 billion deal with EchoStar to help expand its Starlink network. Really, I think the story is of a spectrum buy, right? Let's bring in Bloomberg Tech's Ed Ludlow, who's been reporting on SpaceX and Elon Musk for years. And Ed, you could say, like, EchoStar, the stock is moving a lot and they've sold a ton of spectrum. Right. That's kind of interesting. But far more interesting is the growth in Elon Musk's ability to offer direct-to-device communications.
and Starlink's ability to stand on its own 2 feet in a market where it's direct to device, because they already have an existing relationship with T-Mobile where you can do that. I was part of the beta testing phase of that. It works quite well. SpaceX can now just offer this directly. So $17 billion is also a really interesting piece of M&A for SpaceX. I can't think in its history of something that big. $8.5 billion of cash split with $8.5 billion of SpaceX stock. You know, the EchoStar story was they were a bit troubled anyway. The FCC had looked at their use of that spectrum. By the way, for what it's worth, spectrum is the sort of range of invisible radio frequencies that allow you to send data from, in this case, a satellite down to Earth and a mobile phone. But people were like, is this hardware? No, spectrum is not. It's just invisible space.
I think that's a worthy explainer for all, Ed. And
I was trying to explain it to my 5-year-old daughter yesterday when I gave her an FM radio.
I hope you also emphasize it did not cause
She was
COVID
like, what's the
whatever.
antenna for? Just catches the waves.
Something you need to learn. You know, when they all signal phones, they all do this instead of this. Now, anyway, Ed, away from all of that, I mean, if you just look at some of the share price reaction, not even just the EchoStar gain, it's T-Mobile falling, which, yes, has a partnership with SpaceX, but it's also Verizon. It's also AT&T. Is this a real threat to the incumbents?
Yes, in the sense that it's a relatively nascent technology. The idea that if you don't have cellular tower coverage and you're up a mountain or the middle of the ocean or just walking in the forest, whatever it is you like to do, you can now do it directly with SpaceX. You know, the story of SpaceX has changed where the proportion of revenue from Starlink has overtaken that of launch, and it's clearly much higher margin. There is some brand appeal. We can debate the Elon Musk factor in it, but a lot of people like to go to SpaceX, do Starlink, rather than, say, sign up with a legacy carrier. So it's not that surprising to see pressure on those carrier names.
There's a great story on Apple stock, Ed.
Yes.
The company's gained almost $500 million, I think, or $500 billion, I should say, in market cap since the end of July. But the reason for the run-up is really that the tariff hit lessened after meetings with Donald Trump, and you know, regulations are not hitting them as hard in terms of the payments they can accept from Google. It's not Apple innovation or their moves in AI that's driving the stock higher.
Yeah, some of the headwinds in the first half of the year were removed, and we've discussed that on this program, right? That was the Apple stock story in the first half. The question we're asking ourselves on this network and the show is, why do we care about Apple iPhone Day? It's not as simple as saying that iPhone is 50% of revenue, but I have a chart in my back pocket that I'm not going to show now. I'm going to do it tomorrow. That basically tracks that iPhone days are a sell the news moment, but on a 30 or 60-day basis, and this is based in Bank of America research, it tends to recover. And so, you know, in a moment in time, however the stock trades this week, you know, that's a short-term thing. But over a couple of months, we really do care what's going to happen tomorrow. And with the political backdrop you talked about, the pressure on Tim Cook and Apple from the president to onshore more of the supply chain here, and above all of that, still begs the question, what is the AI story with Apple? And per Mark Gurman's reporting, we expect to learn a little bit about that officially tomorrow as well.
And I know you'll be at that event, Ed. What I want to know away from AI is who wants a thinner iPhone? Who wants that? Who's asking for that?
Yeah, my first MacBook in 2010 when I was at university was a MacBook Pro, chunky old thing. And before that, I'd been a Windows PC user. I couldn't afford the Air. And what Mark's arguing, and I think I agree with him, is that in the first instance, based on our reporting and sources, this iPhone 17 Air, 6.6-inch screen, incredibly thin, is going to be expensive. It's going to have a limited camera because of the design and the space. It's going to be priced between an iPhone 17 Pro at the top end and base model at the middle end. But it will follow the arc of the MacBook. When Mac had the Air in 2008, it was a slow burn to get it to be adopted because it was expensive. But Apple iterates on the technology quickly. And that's the argument that I think Mark's making, that initially you might see a tepid response. But people like thin phones, I think. And it also sets the ground for a foldable phone potentially in 2026. So again, the short term, we'll see what the reaction
on that reporting. Coming up in the next hour, Franklin Templeton's Katrina Dudley on whether the U.S. is in a rolling recession or is it a rolling recovery. Plus, we're going to talk to Carlyle's head of secondaries, which is, I think, closely related to this IPO SPAC story, on a new $20 billion fundraise, and Ethan Allen, CEO, talks furniture ahead of potential tariffs. This is Bloomberg Open Interest.